I didn't flinch when my son leaned into the microphone and said, "Your last name embarrasses me." I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I just smiled, and quietly reached into my pocket where a small USB drive rested against my palm. Because some names carry shame, and some carry the truth. I had imagined my son's wedding day 1,000 times, but none of those visions included standing in a hall full of strangers who looked at me like I was a stain on a white tablecloth. The venue was beautiful in an expensive, deliberate way. Crystal chandeliers, soft gold lights, white roses everywhere, the kind of place where every detail whispered money and perfection. I arrived early, dressed in the only suit I owned, the one I'd worn to job interviews, funerals, and parent-teacher meetings. I checked my tie 3 times in the restroom mirror, telling myself to breathe. This is his day, I kept thinking. Don't make it about you. My son, my only child, was getting married. I should have felt proud. I did feel proud, but underneath it was something heavier, a tightness in my chest I couldn't name yet. We hadn't always been distant. When he was little, he used to fall asleep on my chest while I read him stories. He called me his hero once, after I fixed his broken bicycle with duct tape and stubbornness. I worked long hours back then, factory shifts, night security, anything I could get, but I never missed his school plays. Never missed a birthday, or at least, I thought I hadn't. As guests began to arrive, I noticed how carefully everyone avoided saying my name. They greeted me politely, but there was always that flicker in their eyes when they asked, "And you are?" "I'm the groom's father," I said each time, smiling. Some smiled back, some nodded, a few looked surprised. One woman glanced at my shoes. That was the first red flag. Small, easy to dismiss. The second came when I realized I wasn't seated with family. My place card was at a table near the back, far from the front row. Far from my son, far from the bride's parents, who sat proudly near the aisle, surrounded by laughter and camera flashes. I told myself it was logistics. Seating charts are complicated, people make mistakes. Still, when the ceremony began and my son walked past me without meeting my eyes, something inside me cracked just a little. He looked handsome, confident, like a man who belonged in rooms like this. I told myself that was enough. During the reception, I watched him from across the room. The way he laughed with his friends. The way he held his bride's hand like it was the most natural thing in the world. I remembered teaching him how to tie his first tie. How his hands shook just like mine were shaking now. I stood up twice to go talk to him. Both times, someone intercepted me. Once, it was the wedding planner, gently guiding me back to my table. Another time, it was my son's friend, well-dressed, smiling too much, who said, "He's really busy right now. Maybe later." Later never came. Then came the speeches. I hadn't been asked to give one, which hurt more than I expected. Still, I listened. The bride's father spoke first. He told stories about private schools, vacations abroad, legacy. People laughed at the right moments. Applauded generously. Then my son stood up. He adjusted the microphone and looked out over the room. His gaze skimmed past me like I wasn't there. He thanked his friends, thanked his in-laws, thanked his mother, my ex-wife, who sat near the front, radiant and proud. Then he paused. "I've worked hard to build a future I'm proud of," he said. "A future that reflects who I am now." The room was silent, and I've learned, he continued, that sometimes, where you come from, doesn't match where you're going. My stomach tightened. He glanced at me then. "Just for a second. My last name," he said carefully, "has held me back. It carries a past I don't want attached to my wife, or my children." A murmur rippled through the room. "So today," he said, smiling at his bride, "we're starting fresh. A new name, a new chapter." People applauded. I stayed seated. I don't remember what my face looked like in that moment. I know my hands were steady. I know my heart was not. "Embarrasses me." That word echoed louder than the clinking glasses, louder than the music starting up again. He had never said this to me. Not once. Not in private. Not as a conversation. Not as a question. Just, here, in front of everyone. I thought about the nights I worked double shifts. The calls I didn't return because I was too tired to speak. The mistakes I made. The sacrifices he never saw. And then I thought about the video. The one I'd carried with me for years, not out of spite, but because something in me had always known this day might come. The one I'd almost deleted more times than I could count. I reached into my pocket and felt the smooth edge of the USB drive. Across the room, my son laughed, relieved, basking in applause. He had no idea what I was holding. And he had no idea what he was about to learn. To be continued. The applause faded, but the silence inside me did not. I sat there for a moment longer than anyone expected a man to sit after being publicly erased. Then I stood, slowly, calmly, the kind of calm that only comes when something has already broken beyond repair. People noticed. Conversations softened. Heads turned. I didn't walk toward my son. I didn't walk toward the stage. I walked toward the DJ's table. A few guests looked confused. One of the groomsmen stepped forward, as if to stop me, then hesitated. I suppose I didn't look angry enough to be dangerous. Just certain. I just need a minute, I said quietly. The DJ glanced at me, unsure. I held up the USB drive. My son invited honesty today, I said. I think that deserves respect. Before anyone could object, the drive was in the port. The screen behind the stage flickered. My son turned around, his smile faltering. For the first time that evening, he looked directly at me, not past me, not around me. Dad, he said, confused. What are you doing? I didn't answer. The video began. The room filled with the sound of rain hitting a car windshield. The image was shaky, dim. A younger version of me sat behind the wheel, exhaustion carved into my face. The date stamp glowed in the corner, 22 years earlier. Then my voice, rougher, trembling. I don't know if anyone will ever see this, the man on the screen said. But if something happens, I need the truth to exist somewhere. A murmur passed through the room. My son's brow furrowed. His bride looked from the screen to him, uncertainty blooming across her face. The video cut to a hospital hallway. White walls, harsh lights, a nurse standing beside me, her expression careful. Your wife is stable, she said on the screen. But the baby, the image shook violently as the camera lowered. I remember that night, the man I used to be whispered. I remember choosing. The video paused. I heard someone behind me inhale sharply. Then it continued. The screen showed legal papers spread across a kitchen table. Divorce documents, custody forms. My hands hovered over them, shaking. I was told, the voice said, that if I didn't take the blame, if I didn't carry the story they wanted told, my son would lose everything. Stability, his mother, his future. My son took a step forward. What is this? He demanded, but his voice cracked. The video cut again, this time to a grainy recording of a woman speaking. My ex-wife, younger, angry, her words clear as glass. You're the one with the record, she said on the screen. No one will question it. You take the fall, or I make sure you never see him again. Gasps rippled through the hall. My son's face drained of color. I stayed quiet, the man in the video said softly. I let the world believe I was less. I let my name become something people whispered about. Because my son deserved a chance to grow without carrying my mistakes, or hers. The screen went black. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then the room erupted, not in applause, but in stunned, fractured whispers. People turned toward my son. Toward his mother. Toward me. My son looked like he couldn't breathe. You said it was your fault, he said, his voice small now. All these years, you never corrected anyone. I know, I said gently. That was the deal. His bride stepped back from him, confusion and hurt flashing across her face. What deal? She asked. He didn't answer her. He was staring at me like he was seeing a stranger. You let me believe I was ashamed of you, he said. You let me think your name was something I had to escape. I nodded. Yes. Why? His voice broke completely now. Why wouldn't you fight for yourself? I took a step closer, careful, slow. Because fighting would have dragged you into it. Because I thought one of us should walk through life without carrying that weight. His eyes filled. And you decided it should be you. I was the parent, I said simply. His mother stood abruptly, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. This is manipulation, she snapped. You had no right. No, I said, turning to her for the first time that night. You had no right, and I kept that secret longer than I should have. The room watched her closely now. The polished image she had worn like armor was cracking. My son turned back to me, his shoulders shaking. I said your name embarrassed me, he whispered. I said it in front of everyone. I heard, I said. And I forgive you. That seemed to hurt him more than anger would have. I don't deserve that, he said. No, I agreed softly. But love isn't about deserving. The DJ quietly shut off the screen. The music never came back. Guests began to drift away, uncomfortable, shaken. The wedding was no longer a celebration. It was a reckoning. My son took off the microphone and set it down like it weighed too much to hold. I changed my name, he said hoarsely. I signed the papers last month. I nodded. I know. He stared at me. You knew, and still came. Yes. Why? He asked again, desperation creeping into his voice. Because I wanted to be here when you decided who you were, I said. With or without me. Tears slid down his face freely now. He didn't wipe them away. I don't know how to fix this, he said. I looked at him, really looked at him. The boy I raised, the man he had become. You don't fix it today, I said. You live with the truth. That's harder, but it lasts longer. He swallowed. Will you stay? The question hung between us, fragile and sincere. I glanced around the half-empty hall. At the scattered flowers, the broken illusion. I'll always be your father, I said. But staying, that part is up to you now. He nodded slowly, understanding dawning in his eyes. I turned and walked toward the exit, my steps steady, my heart lighter than it had been in years. Behind me, I heard him call my name, my full name. The one he had rejected. Not loudly, not for show, but like he meant it. And for the first time, it didn't embarrass him at all.